Okay. Game 5 tonight, Scotiabank Arena, the Leafs and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Leafs have the opportunity to close out for the first time in the first round since that song that you just heard, Yeah, by Usher, was number 1 on the charts. So it's been a minute. It's been more than a minute. It's been many minutes. But tonight they have the opportunity to do it on home ice and exercise the demons, AB. We got a loaded show to chat with you guys about it all today. Brian Boyle's going to join us at 12:30. Jay Rosehill a little later on. Chris Johnston, who I assume is down at Scotiabank right now for morning skate, will join us as well in the 1 o'clock hour. But what a day, AB. Our producer Steph said it's a perfect day to slay. It's a beautiful day outside. It's sunny. The vibes are pretty good in Toronto. I was seeing a couple, not a ton. I can understand the cautious optimism from the Leafs fan base. I've only seen a few flags and such around, but I live downtown Toronto, and I can imagine maybe Woodbridge or Vaughan is popping off a bit right now.
Not a lot of drivers in downtown Toronto, but
I see hats. I
think there's a lot of hats going on. Like, if you go to a university campus right now, that's the thing where I noticed it most. Like, I remember being at Western, and when the Blue Jays went on their run, when the Raptors were kind of in the playoffs, early on, and then when the Leafs made the playoffs, I think it was their first year. Actually, no, it was in Toronto by then. But I remember the Blue Jays run. All of a sudden, everybody had a Blue Jays hat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. You saw no Blue Jays hats at all, and then all of a sudden, come October, boom, every single person on that on the campus has a Blue Jays hat. The same thing's going on with the Maple Leafs right now, I guarantee it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break this down, AB. We put it out to the people, kind of the importance of the Leafs winning this game tonight and how vital folks think that winning tonight is in the pursuit of winning this series. How important do you think it is for the Leafs to close it out tonight as opposed to 6 or 7? They've got 3 cracks at it to close this thing out, and tonight's their first attempt.
Yeah, I do think it's important to do it tonight just because, you don't want to let the Tampa Bay Lightning get off the floor, right? You don't want them to get off the mat at all. You just want to put them away and bury them, right? We're looking at this, a couple days ago, I outlined what was the playoff demons, right? That checklist. And the last thing is closing out a series, right? That's the final checklist is having that killer instinct. They're wounded, finish them off, right? Like just get it done. So if they don't, and you allow them to get back into it, now you got to go back to Tampa for game 6, where, let's be honest, the Maple Leafs, they came out with 2 wins, but they were outplayed by Tampa in both of those games.
Yeah.
If they come out playing that way, they get last change, and they're able to line match the way that they were, odds are they will play way better, and they will close it out because they know how to do it in game 6. And then we're back here for a game 7 next week, and all of a sudden, all of Leafs Nation is going to be biting their fingernails for literally 48 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So to your point, there's kind of 2 halves to why I think it's so important for the Leafs to close out tonight. One is because you don't want to let Tampa off the mat, like you just said. You don't want to plant any little seed of hope in Tampa's mind, because I don't think John Cooper was talking about it yesterday, and we know how John Cooper spins things in the media. He used the word tattooed. If they had been tattooed at home, if the Leafs had really beat up on them, if they were the better team, Tampa, and I'm sure they're feeling bad again. There was some lip service happening from John Cooper for sure. It's got to be disheartening to be the better team and still not win 3 of those games or play like the better team. So you don't want to give Tampa any hope, because I think if you plant a little seed of hope in those championship little brains, especially with Vasilevsky back there, if he even gets a sliver of hope tonight, makes a couple big saves strong, I don't like that vibe. I don't want them having any hope. And then the second part of it is the Leafs. And this is what a lot of people are pointing out to us in our tweets. So if you want to join the conversation, you could text us 1050 or tweet us at Leafs Lunch 1050. But the longer they go without closing this thing out, the louder it gets.
Yes.
The louder the noise is going to get, the more the narrative they can't close is going to start to creep into the walls of Scotiabank Arena and seep into the ice or whatever happens when the Leafs start to get in their own heads.
Well, look, Julia, this team has had 10 cracks at it, right? This core group of Nylander, Matthews, Marner, Riley, Tavares has been here for a lot of it as well. They've had 10 cracks at it and have yet to put away a team. So it's there, right? Like, they're wearing it. They know what, in the back of their heads, they know, right? We can't let teams get back into it. They allowed, last year they allowed Tampa to get back into it by not putting away in game 6. And then they allowed Montreal to get back into it 2 years ago, and they weren't able to put them away. They were up 3-2 on Boston. They've been up in series and have just not been able to finally get that fourth win. And look, they said all the right things after game 3. They weren't out there, celebrating whatnot, and they were happy about the comeback. They were, obviously, I guess, happy with it, but they knew that the job wasn't done. And they said the fourth one's still the hardest to win because that's what they haven't done. They haven't won a fourth game in a playoff series.
It's uncharted territory.
Yeah, in a way, yeah, it totally is because they've come up.
They've been at this point
short every time.
They haven't been able to push it over the edge yet.
Yeah,
and we'll see tonight if they can. So let's just take a peek at kind of how some of these guys have performed in closeout games, and most notably, the three-headed monster that this team is built around. Mitch Marner has 3 assists. He's -5 in 9 closeout games.
Not great.
No. Austin Matthews has 2 goals, 3 assists, but is -4 in 9 closeout games. And Willie Stiles, 1 goal, 7 assists in these games. He actually is a guy that generally kind of performs well enough in these games. Never had a legendary performance, but he always gets his cookies in these games somehow.
So here's my prediction on tonight's game, right? So game 3, I thought Samsonov had to steal the game. I think Willie makes a big play, and Willie this will kind of be remembered as Willie's game, where Willie finally arrived here in the series. I truly believe that. Not saying he's going to be the best player on the ice, but I think he will arrive in this series. Like playing alongside Austin Matthews now, he's getting off that wing with John Tavares. That's going to open up so much more opportunity for him offensively. Like when he played with Austin Matthews this season, like everything just seemed to click and work for him. He was scoring so much. He was getting a lot more chances. He didn't have to worry about defending because they could deploy them basically strictly in an offensive zone situation, and being at home, having last change, they could do that a lot more.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be in extremely favorable positions to have a successful night, and he's going to have space because people are going to be drawn to Austin Matthews because now he's heating up. Like, remember when him and Matthews were playing together? Matthews often passed the puck up to Willie, and Willie was the guy finishing. That was kind of around when Matthews was like, oh, is there something wrong with him? Like, he hasn't been scoring. He's passing the puck up a lot. But the line was doing well, right? At the end of the day, they were factoring in and they were scoring goals. Playing together, Austin Matthews and William Nylander, when they are together on the ice, I believe it's like a 73% goals for percentage when they're on the ice, and then it's sub 50% when Nylander's with John Tavares. So making that switch, I think, will unlock something from William Nylander. He comes up big in big game performances typically. Like I said, 8 points in those 9 closeout games. The only one who's even sniffing point per game. I think tonight's the night he really goes off and has himself a good game. Not saying he's going to have a hat trick or he's going to be, go legend mode by any means, but I think he will be an X factor tonight.
Yeah, I think the biggest goal for William Nylander is not to let Bill from Calgary, his alter ego that kind of floats around out there, make an appearance, because that's been kind of the case. He's getting his cookies. He's had a couple big moments where he's really stepped up, but he does have that tendency to kind of go ghost for parts of the game and then reappear magically as the William Nylander we've grown to know and love here in Toronto. So if we can get a full game from Will without seeing any of Bill, you're right, AB. I'm sure it would be really impactful for the Leafs. But I think the 2 guys I still have circled are Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner in terms of having the goal legend performance, signature playoff performances that we've been waiting patiently for. And I think it's fair to say, what night of the week was it? Monday night's game was a start to that. Yeah,
Tuesday.
That was the night of the week. Tuesday night was the night that they came all the way back from that 4-1 deficit.
No, it was Monday. It was
Monday. Okay, and they led the charge. Anyways, I'm wildly confused now. But Austin Matthews got 2 goals in that comeback, and we kind of pondered after the game, was that his signature playoff performance? Is this part of it? And part of it, I think, is what we landed on. Like, it'll be a piece to the puzzle of this signature playoff performance from Austin Matthews if they get it done, with a big asterisk on the if. And I think we've said a couple times, Mitch Marner, I don't know how it stands after last night. I haven't looked at the points yet this morning. I think he's second in scoring in the NHL playoffs right now, but kind
sneakily
of quietly,
second.
kind of sneakily. I think he still has a lot more to give, and he's been a guy in these moments that has been circled and criticized a lot in these do-or-die moments. So I think a huge performance from him, those 2 specifically, to push this team over the edge. The 2 guys that this whole thing is built around, that Kyle Dubas has put his full, maybe not his job on the line based on, I don't know, kind of what we've observed, but maybe it is his job on the line. He's put his job, reputation kind of on the line, building around these guys that he believes in, and we haven't seen really pull it off in the postseason, but he's given them the full vote of confidence, and they have to prove that they've deserved it.
I think his job's on the line. Like, I don't think you're out of whack by saying that there has to be some tangible success with this group, right? He came out years ago after he was challenged about, signing those guys to those big deals, and then also doubling down and bringing in, John Tavares too, right? And like, can you win with having 3 guys, I guess, but 4 if you want to include Willie, making that much money up front? Can you win that way? And he came out and he flat out said, we can and we will.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't yet, but this feels like this is kind of the closest that they've been. I know they were up 3-1 before, and it felt like they should be able to put away the Montreal Canadiens, but, those demons crept up and they weren't able to get it done. And I think it's interesting, like somebody asked yesterday if they felt that the demons in the past, if this current team, which has a lot of different characters on it, like we saw a massive overhaul on this squad during the season at the trade deadline, and he was asked, like, does this team still wear the past struggles in closeout situations? Here's what Sheldon Keefe had to say.
The core, of course, has remained the same, and those guys have been through a lot together, and myself included. So that's real and that's felt, and I think there's growth inside of that. There's motivation and focus because of those things, but I also think that the guys that are fresh and new and that have come in, and by and large everyone that has come has brought with them some great experience, whether that's actual championship pedigree or playing deep into the playoffs or playing in the league a really long time. We've got great experience within our group all the way through, including the depth, and I think that brings a lot to the team, and that's part of the different type of feel around the group.
The different feel, AB. It feels different.
It feels different, but to go back to the point that he was making about how this, like, it's a different team, right? But the core is still there, right? Like, those guys are still there, and it's definitely in the back of their minds. But I always think back to what Nathan MacKinnon said 2 years ago when they got eliminated in the bubble. And coming out of it, he said, or maybe it was I think it was the Canadian division year, actually. But he came out and he said, I'm going into my 9th year and I haven't won bleep.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, those guys that we've been talking about here, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Morgan Riley, Willie, and Austin Matthews, had that aha moment at some point last year after they had lost in the 7-game series to this Tampa Bay Lightning and say, hey, we're going into year 6, 7, 8. We haven't won bleep. We got to do something different. We got to make sure that we go out there, block every shot. We got to use some aggression. We got to come out with some urgency. And we just got to get it done. Get over this hump, win a round, and then who knows where they can go. But I'm hoping that the epiphany that Nate MacKinnon had and the follow-up season going on to win a championship for the Colorado Avalanche, you got to hope that there's a little bit of that inside this team and inside guys like Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner who have the ability to go legend like Nate MacKinnon did last year and do that in a game like tonight to just close them out and just don't allow Tampa to get back into the series. Don't give him a sliver of hope in it. Just go out there and slay. Kill it, slay the dragon, slay the beast, however you want to call it, and get yourself into round 2 for the first time in 19 years for this franchise.
Yeah, and that's what needs to go down tonight, AB. It's an exciting prospect, and do you want to get a little bit more specific into what we think exactly has to happen tonight in order for the Leafs to be successful with our...
I do.
Okay.
I do. Let's get to it. The Thursday 3-pack.
Count to 3?
Yeah.
That's your big advice? Count to 3?
Yeah. Whenever you get scared about anything, you just do this. Just count to 3 and then do it.
So I give you to the count of 3.
1, 2, 3, not only you and me, got 180 degrees and I'm caught in between.
All right, our Thursday 3-pack. 3 things that need to happen in order for the Leafs to be victorious tonight in Game 5 and put away the Tampa Bay Lightning. The first thing, AB, is one, and we've made the Mike Babcock jokes, start on time. It's got to be a hot start tonight.
Is it a 7 or 7:30 start tonight, by the way?
I don't know, but like the Leafs should know because it seems as though they have not been informed the past couple of games.
It's a 7 o'clock start.
Okay, so they should be used to that.
I'll say this. Game 1 was a 7:30 start. They did not start on time. Game 2 at home was a 7 o'clock start, and they started on time. Good omen already.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. So I can understand that 7:30 start would have been very confusing for them, so that maybe explains a lot.
I just look at it like it is important. I mean, you could probably tell and I remember coming off game one saying the exact same thing after such a poor performance in game number one. Game two, it was like, hey, the first 10 minutes, the way that Toronto plays, you should be able to know how this game is going to play out. And they came out, they scored in the first minute, they added an insurance marker and got a third one later in the period. And then we're up 3-0, and you felt pretty good about that game. I think tonight's very similar, right? Just build off the momentum that you got after going down by 3 in the third period, coming all the way back, winning it in overtime. Build off that momentum by starting out on time, right? Go out. You can't sit back and defend. Be on the attack right away. Break down Tampa's neutral zone defense, which was extremely stingy through the first 40 minutes of that game back in Tampa in game 4, and create some rush chances, get bodies in front. Like, there's just so much that they're going to have to do. But starting on time and dictating the first period, getting that first goal, I think is going to be crucial for them tonight.
Yeah, set the tone. Don't let them bring it to you. The second one has been paramount in the goals the Leafs have been able to get past Vasilevsky. Talked about it a bit yesterday. Said he needed some bleeping X-ray goggles to defend against the Leafs.
Yeah.
Get traffic to the net. Win the net front battles on both ends. That first game when they lost, the big thing that was circled was the way they were getting caved in front of their own net, and they've kind of flipped the script on that through the last few games in which they've been able to score a lot of goals through traffic on Vasilevsky. And he commented on it yesterday. He said, last year they played more skill hockey. This year they're playing more playoff hockey, which I feel like is the highest form of compliment this Leafs team could get in the way that they've shifted their play. And we'll talk to Jay Rosehill about that in a few minutes, but they've got to continue to get that traffic in front.
Yeah, and he went on to say, instead of creating that super highlight reel loop play, they're just trying to get as many bodies in front as possible and just shoot the puck from the blue line. And look, we heard that comment from Derek Lalonde about how that's kind of the book on Vasilevsky. And when you look, although John Cooper tried to dispel that yesterday, which I thought was kind of humorous, I don't believe for a second that wasn't the case.
I was surprised by how many people were rattled about that, too. Like, everybody watching the game has seen, oh, yeah, Vasilevsky through traffic, not very good. And then they acted like Lalonde was giving some trade secrets on the air.
Well, I mean, it wasn't a trade secret, but it's the fact that
That's what I mean, though. It was being treated a little bit like a trade secret that he, announced on the air. I don't think it was that at all.
Well, I mean, I don't know what John Cooper just doesn't want that stuff out there. Like, realistically, I am very surprised that he did say that, because he's a guy that's still in the NHL and still coaching in the league. But regardless, the proof is in the pudding here. You look at the 19 goals that have been scored against the Tampa Bay Lightning and on Andre Vasilevsky so far this season, in the postseason. 11 of the 19 have come from point shots with deflections in front.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's not necessarily like it took X-ray goggles to figure that out.
No, but I
think in the NHL.
But I think when you look at his comment, the fact that they actually did a study and that information has been known for Tampa, I think it was more so that they tailored their defensive structure to try and limit that as much as possible. Was kind of the nugget, that insight that we didn't really know.
But wasn't it clear that we saw the Leafs adjust to that in the second game once they kind of saw that it was easier to get stuff past him through traffic?
Yeah, for sure. And Sheldon Keefe came out and he said, yeah, of course we have that information.
Yeah.
Right? That's we're
Surprise!
NHL head
Breaking
coaches.
News.
We have extensive resources, and we have a lot of numbers that aren't available to the public, and I'm sure a few of those was exactly that and exactly this. So yeah, I don't think it came as a surprise to the Maple Leafs that was the book on them. It explains why they continue to do that, and they're finding success that way. But they got to continue to do that tonight. And look, I Game 4 is the hardest game to win. And I was watching SportsCenter this morning or last night, and Marty Baron was on the talking point. He was talking about it, and he was essentially saying it's not that Toronto or the team that's up 3-1, why it's hard for them to actually put them away. It's because of the desperation on the other side. So when we're talking about getting traffic in front of the net, it's going to be a lot harder tonight than it was in games 2, 3, and 4, because they know that their season is on the line, and they have to remove guys from the front of the net. They have to create sight lines for Andre Vasilevsky, right? It wasn't a must in games 2, 3, and 4 because the season was on the line. Tonight it is. So Toronto has to make sure that they also are up to the challenge and up to the task, that they can battle just as hard as Tampa Bay are going to do, and make sure that they do get guys in front and take away those sight lines and get sticks on pucks and hopefully get them into the back of the net. Do it early, do it often, and ride off into the sunset and get set for round 2.
Exactly. Don't plant that seed of hope. I've said it a couple times. Don't let Vasi make that one big save. You get one by him early. I think it sets you up pretty well for the rest of the night. And on the other side, the goaltending between the Leafs pipes. Ilya Samsonov had an electric season at home all year long, and he has to continue that tonight. And the way that we phrased it is getting an extra save from Ilya Samsonov.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky and Samsonov have been statistically, I think, the worst 2 goalies in the postseason so far.
Correct.
So, it hasn't been, even though Samsonov's got them by and has made that extra save, timely save specifically for them, the numbers overall haven't been great. So tonight, again, it doesn't have to be Vezina level goaltending, I don't think, but they do need to get that extra timely save that he has, to his credit, been providing this series.
Absolutely. Like that stop that you got, on Nick Paul in game 3 when it was a 3-2 game to allow your team to stick with it. The stop on Kucherov in overtime. You look back to last night, right? Bobrovsky, I don't know if you were watching that game. Their season could have been over.
I saw
Brad Marchand with a breakaway in the final seconds of the game. Bobrovsky makes a big clutch save to keep their season alive, take it to overtime, where ultimately the Panthers won and they stayed alive. That's the type of save you need. It's not like Bobrovsky was perfect that night, but he made the key save when he had to.
And that was an interesting one, because I think starting Bobrovsky was a little bit of a conversation. I saw the Emily Kaplan interview on the bench with Paul Maurice. Can you walk us through your decision to start Bobrovsky? No, I can't, Em. It was a hilarious answer that he gave her. But the reason that he did give was that in a game like that, you want to put emphasis on your leaders. And Alex Lyon has gotten them to that point, but Bob's got the big contract. Bob's the leader on that team. There's a lot of leaders on the Leafs that are going to have to step up tonight, and Bob did that last night.
He did, and that is the difference, I guess, between Bobrovsky and Samsonov is Samsonov doesn't necessarily have the pedigree that Bob's does. So he has a chance to kind of rewrite his narrative tonight, right? Going into the playoffs, we all questioned, okay, can this guy get it done? He was what, 1-6 or something like that?
1-7 to start. Oh, no, maybe it was 1-7 after that first game.
Yeah, and it's ooh, I don't know. There was conversations about Joe Wall coming in for game 2.
There was.
How silly does that sound now? But that being said, it doesn't matter unless he actually, puts away the Tampa Bay Lightning. They get the win. They end up, going through the next round, and then he can kind of reset. But you're right. I think one of the keys tonight, he's going to add some points. This is going to be a tightly contested game. I don't see a blowout by any means. This is going to be a tight game, probably a little bit more low scoring than we've typically seen, maybe a 3-2 hockey game. And he's got to make that save at the right time to keep the team in the lead or keep the game in play for them to maybe mount another comeback potentially. He is going to have to make that extra key save at some point, and that's going to be a key tonight as well.
Yeah. The other vital things, of course, Leafs Nation, get your superstitions out. Get your, whatever superstition it is.
Are you a little stitious? Or
whatever pair of gits you haven't washed since 2004, whatever it is.
Can
get them out. Let's rock.
So I got to call you out for something, okay?
Oh,
You're superstitious.
Yes.
I'll tell you that right now. You're superstitious, and you don't want the Malocchio anywhere near this Maple Leafs team to the point where, yes, you're wearing your pepper right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. But we watched game 2 together.
I know.
And you legitimately, I think it may have been the first power play that the Tampa Bay Lightning were on. It was still 1-0 and a chance for them to claw back in. You pulled out, what did you pull? You pulled out the stick of whatever the hell you had. It looked like it's supposed to be incense, I think.
It's cedar.
Okay, cedar, and you're this is to ward off the demons. And you legitimately pulled it out up in the press box.
And what did they do?
And you're this is supposed to help the Maple Leafs. I've got it in here. You said Marissa had one out there, so we've got it covered outside in Leafs
Station. I saged the press box, and I will have my sage tonight as well.
Doing the same thing.
Yes, that's part of the whole thing. Me and Marissa will get our Nona stuff going. We'll get the. Have you seen the other trick with all my Vaughn people, Woodbridge people will know what I'm talking about right now with the egg yolk and the olive oil and a little bit of a spell that Nonas do. It's all happening tonight, and it's all vital.
Have you witnessed that in person, by the way?
Yeah, my grandmother used to do it for me.
Yeah, my
when I was
Nona
a kid.
does it too. It's when you're sick or feeling low. It's it is a weird concept that apparently works.
I went through an acne phase in high school. My Nona was cooking that up weekly for me. She's somebody's got the eye on you right now. We've got good skin.
They
in the family.
yell at demons inside of you.
Correct.
It's hilarious. And I feel like someone's Nona maybe needs to walk up and yell at these demons inside of Mitch Martin and Austin Matthews, rid them away ahead of tonight's game, and allow them just to play free and just get it done. Get it done. Put them away. Don't risk having to go back to Tampa, and don't risk a do or die game 7, because those have not gone Toronto's way.
Yeah.
in the past.
No, and
So,
the other thing is the crowd jumping all night.
Yeah.
The road teams have been really good this playoffs. I heard John Cooper talking yesterday about how sometimes being at home, and Leafs Nation, we're all anxiety ridden today. So I feel that deeply. I think no matter what happens down to the game tonight, the fans have got to be, it's got to be an electric factory in there. John Cooper had an interesting point about how sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, a team is feeding off the energy from the crowd. If things go awry early and the crowd is tense, don't get the juju on the boys. Just stay loose, have a beer, chill, yell, scream. It's going to be fine.
yeah, absolutely. So we'll get some good vibes coming from the crowd